Welcome to our lovely future humans, those who have a body in connection, using mindful communication skills, the left and the right working together, default mode network downregulated, and knowing that all of our brothers and sisters are lovely little angels, even the ones who are with their broken hearts. There's no Lucifer stories for the 5D mystics in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, for the spiritual ones who know about neuroscience, mental health, and the embodied brain. The ones who are still using ancient news, they don't know Hippocrates or Hippocrates, however you pronounce it. As he pointed out way back when with epilepsy, once we find out what it is, we'll stop calling it the wrath of the gods. Now we know what the embodied brain is, and Patrick McNamara is proving it, the decentralizing of the self. So smart human beings are who come to the future and to IHP, paid and free subscribers. Welcome aboard. We enjoy doing thoughts and feelings because our body, again, is in VBS. So you know how to shift your nervous system to the ventral vagal state. You own your sense of self, and that means you own all your child parts, and they may come up like my 3-year-old with my mom. That's why the trauma time, but we handle it. So we're still learning emotional mastery. We're learning to emotionally become mature, and that's why we enjoy the mindful inner growth practices for the paid subscribers. There's 5-minute and 15-minute, and I've been releasing the 3-minute for free so people can get the gist of it. Exercises, readings, spotlights, and I have plans for more than just that to be continued. And one-to-one mentorship, you can inquire. For signups for the masterclass, you can also email. That's through email to inquire. And workshops, retreats, sign up. Okay, so you choose emotional maturity and depth and mastery because you can. And the beauty of being a somatic empath is that you welcomed all of your parts and all of you, but you can also do the same for those who are also securely attached. And that's why we create safe haven, secure-based relationships. And so with that being said, you own the subconscious, implicit, explicit memory, your emotional plane. You know we're all emotional, even the ones who think they're not. So someone saying, I just want it to be a world where it's not about what feels right, what is right. They need a hug, but they won't want a hug from us because they don't believe that we can be friends, snap done, because that's what they said. And so decision making, it's really awesome because when you're creating resiliency in your ventral vagal state, you're enjoying dealing with yourself. Unknowns, unexpecteds, unwanteds, and uncertainties. Our human secondary and primary consciousness work together. So when we do learn, thank you, Pat Ogden, that the body and the way it tracks, so when you learn to read the body and track its language, that it is the somatic narrative, you will know that it is the narrative of the body, and that the verbal, so whatever comes out of the mouth of somebody, the verbal story or their thoughts is secondary to the somatic narrative, because the body really speaks and can't be deceived by mind. You also learn, in fact, that if you look at the body of anyone, you will be able to know how a person is feeling and doing and being. So you just watch their body and it will show you everything you need to know. But we also want to remember that you don't know that person, and that when we are in the midst of a person, while the body remembers what the mind forgets, thank you, Jacob Moreno, if they are not healed. So people heal when they experience somatic empathy. When they feel understood, they will also feel felt, but they will have welcomed back the child parts, which is why the therapists are where they go to when people want to be their true self. And then they continue with personal development and spiritual growth. So you don't lose people, by the way, when you're a mystic. If you're an empowered feminine, the ones who keep losing people, they're not empowered feminines. And it's not about being a woman. They don't know how it is to be compassionate and discerning and equanimous and loving like God is, like Akash Source, Anima Mundi. So infinite wisdom is not going to talk to you about good or bad. It will talk to you about choice and free will. While science with Robert Sapolsky tells us no free will. So he says we've been determined by the first 3 years of life. He's pretty spot on with all of that, which I've seen, because if your beliefs are not falsifiable, if there's no scenario that could convince you that your most cherished opinions are in error, then that's proof that you don't get them by being in contact with reality. So when someone gives me men and women gender stereotypes, I say I don't do gender stereotypes. But I do know that neuroscientists have shared with me how the man and woman brain is composed, and that from more than just that bunch of neuroscientists, I've consistently learned about the attachment trauma education. So I know that while my cherishable opinion is I don't believe in gender stereotypes, I will still see them applicable, and then I will also notice of them being good, well applied by those who have true virtue, empowered men and empowered women, and true integrity. So it's not about genders, which is why we also know we leave to the future generation the baton of, it's not about monoamory or polyamory. It's not about man-woman household. It's about, are we securely attached, non-traumatized people? And that's why the future human, yes. Not all are right now, but the future human will be. Does anybody know why? Because the truth always wins. Because God wins. Jesus shared, the kingdom of God is within you. Heaven is when it is in your body as a restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. Do you know what Maria's proof is? Besides the scientists that people don't believe in. Neuroscience, ha ha ha. My eyes. I get to see the ones who live shame on a wheelhouse and the blame and fault and revenge. And no, emotionally immature, petty people are very uninteresting. Enough to be saluted is just one of the funny ass stories I got for you, and they think they taught me common courtesy. And then others think I should have gotten in his face or serious, and I say no, because that's actually inappropriate and not necessary behavior. I won't punish anyone who's shamed, and I'm not God. I don't cast stones, but furthermore, they're biologically rude. And there's a losing strategy, so why would you want me to waste 1 inch of my breath on someone who won't learn anything, and in fact, who thought they taught me manners? No, who thinks? The men said that I'm too friendly, and that sometimes I use the wrong words. But you know, that's one of those things that a woman will say, sure, okay, I'll learn how to be the frigid bitch, witch, whatever you want to call me, and figure it out. Because, you know, the minute you make up an excuse for why a man could be allowed to confuse something, and it's based on how I spoke or didn't speak, yeah, it's pretty much the same excuse anybody else will have. But this is where it's not about man or woman, because I'll pick the man over the bear instinctively. My body's smart enough and my brain knows better, and it's all about, I don't do gender stereotypes because that's used very erroneously by a bunch of the masses. And so when you meet anyone who's ignorant and mediocre, believe me, they're not in any way, shape, or form powerful. They just have Peter Pan and Lost Boys. 7 of 14, the charming of Michael Stone, forensic criminologist, evil skill. They're just not charming to a brilliant, actual brilliant brain. Yeah, water, air, food, that's it. The destructive mode people, they're not destroying anything. They're just being buffoons, as God does always win. Did I mention that I'm of spirit? Oh, I do know. Don't worry, Sam Harris. Dark matter, dark energy, please don't implode. And science is not going anywhere, because it was 1, written in the Constitution. 2, smart people will invest in science. 3, no, it won't be in the absence of their colleagues, because they're not dumb idiots. 4, again, any of those who think that isolating oneself means you know everything, that's the key. You are not grounded in reality, like the flat earthers, who I'm sure are going out of their way to disprove Neil deGrasse's most recent video on Earth and how it's round. And so again, we're going to have a good time, because masculines, they don't achieve their full potential if they're not captured, contained, and nurtured. And those human beings were not nurtured to become the best of their 3-year-old. Enough to be saluted. That's called shame. And me doing anything would not result in any difference. And that's because biologically rude people, all adopted child part people, are self-preserving. And it's a child's version of what a grown-up coulda, shoulda, woulda done. So they have unhealthy self-worth, unhealthy self-soothing. They have very clear, like Terry points out in his graph, this guy was in the shame of manipulative desperate. And you got grandiosity on the top. We got the squirrel from Cusco land. This is the anxious ones, boundaryless. So they're porous. They have no boundaries whatsoever. They're just clingy. They're trying to cling on to somewhere. And so here they turn into the squirrel from Cusco land and become basically justifying that they will kill Cusco with the Panthers because Cusco treated them poorly when they offered the nut. So hypocrite, because wow, so he was rude, and now you're going to actually justify that you're going to be even more rude. By the way, biologically rude people, they're not consciously choosing anything. That's why their 3-year-old is what rules them. It's not an excuse. It's a data point and information that people don't like to hear. But no, you don't say, I attacked you because you triggered my childhood wound. That's not okay either. No, you don't attack somebody because you're triggered. You go to therapy, learn how to handle your triggers, and at some point, shape, or form, because you're doing the work, you won't be triggered. That's why trauma doesn't continue to live through you when you're taking awareness, accountability, regulation skills seriously, and you don't project and stay in a childhood 0-8-year-old. So when you hear someone say, I'm a healer, how dare you trauma dump? That's not a healed person. They're not a healer. When you hear someone saying that we can't look at humanity with one frequency, which is the one of love, and that there's evil somewhere, those are the low frequency individuals who don't know Michael Stone, the forensic criminologist scale number 1. They also don't believe that their brothers and sisters of shame, blame, fault, revenge have any kind of way into becoming healed, and they're putting them in a villain story. Do you realize? So while Jesus says the kingdom of God is within everybody, bring forth that which is within you, and then you will thrive. Okay, so when you have shame, it eats away at you. Self-loathing, gut wrench, torn apart. It's explainable. So when people are using distress, their safety behaviors, they're not healthy. Is they're actually in a default mode network that continues to scan self and others. So the minute you learn to shift in your ventral vagal state, then you're going to be healthy. And people who don't want it will go to a person who says it's dangerous to have no emotions. And it's not true that it's inherently healthy and enlightening to be non-reactive. Okay, yes, it is true. It is inherently healthy and enlightening to learn over time, whatever time it takes you, to work and get out of the safety behavior, which is only for the bear and for natural disasters. It's physically actually not in favor of your health. So I'll use my lovely scoliosis as an example. My back is crooked. So there's some postures that I'm told to focus on my posture, sit in a way so that I don't allow my body, which is already inclined, to move in the wrong direction to keep moving it, because it's picked up momentum. I'm just going to give you that example. Okay, so when you understand that your embodied brain is meant to be in its restorative embodiment, that's your birthright. According to smart scientists, it's the kingdom of God. So here, it doesn't contradict that God made us as little angels and that the fallen ones are not Lucifer. They're people who have shame, blame, fault, revenge, trauma charges that can be healed. So anybody who's speaking against becoming emotionally mature, mentally mature, and physically mature, wherever their words are, don't matter. They're just the same as any other adaptive child part wanting to punish. With a trauma charge, they like their group, and then they want to go against the other group. And they're still using stories. And the ones who will follow them will not be back here. And that I already know, because I don't hang out with mediocre people. And when I'm obligated to be around anybody who's ignorant, I leave it alone. Neuroscience, everyone has something to believe in. Sure, I'm woo pseudoscience, but yeah, you're right. What can I say? I'm not going to try proving it. I'm not in school. I'm not being examined, tested. Why would I do that? And they just told me that they don't believe that they can be smart and healed and beautiful, and they have broken with humanity, so something happened to them. When people heal, it's because they experience somatic empathy, they feel seen, but that's because they also welcome that fragment, and then they also welcome humanity with their own flaws and imperfections. The minute you want humanity to be perfect, and it's according to your list of rules, yeah, self-preserving, adaptive child part, so sorry, your stereotypes, generalizations, and in-group sounds really awesome. Go have fun with them. My in-group is we're all human beings, and there's one of two kinds: emotionally mature masters, and they're mentally mature and masters, and intelligent, or not. And when I'm around them, I actually have to do a lot of what I got taught by God, my mother, and as a truly intelligent mind, be polite. You know why? It's a fun story. So first of all, a human being may have the strength to face any kind of punishment given to them, but they will be defeated by immense compassion. Punishment can make a person rock solid, but compassion beyond a reason will shatter them. This is from the story of Sadhguru on the compulsive thief. So shame can dissolve when a person welcomes who they are from here. It's a feeling. It's once they look in my eyes and I look in their eyes, and we're open-heartedly welcoming each other with our defects. That's why self-acceptance, and that's why healthy self-worth is what a person will need in addition to their psych-educated self and whole self, because this is the moment. It's not only about what words are coming at. It's not even about the words at all. It's about the part that you take your solo self, narrative, relational, and core, and know my 0 to 16-year-old are all child charge parts of me, and you separate in their age groups. People know of them. When you explain it, like, yep, okay. And you can also talk about them as defense responses of your nervous system, because some people don't like the child part. Although when they don't like the child part, then you know that they were called pretty much a whiny baby or something. Because the moment you don't want to welcome your 0-1-year-old, you, not me, I welcome mine, your 2-year-old, your 3, with compassion and softness, with complete, like, wow, that's my 2-year-old. Like if you're seeing a 2-year-old baby, but it's not another baby, it's you. And so this is what people don't seem to realize when someone wants to say, we're not here to heal all trauma. Really? You want to continue treating your own self like a little piece of shit because that's what you decided, teenager, to make sense in your brain about allowing yourself to not actually be grounded in reality, to pose to yourself how you got physically or emotionally or mentally treated at your 0-1, your 0-1 to 2, because if you did, I bet you my bottom, the minute that you would be in the presence of your own infant self watching, because I've seen the adult attachment interview with the children, because I take classes again, the minute you will have seen a child and what happens in the different not secure attached, you will be like, oh my God, why are we not healing every human being on the face of this planet? Which is where our somatic therapists, they all said, don't worry, children, it's happening. Their body is headed towards that because the body's smarter than that left mode. So people can keep talking whatever they want. If they follow the bullshitters, they're just a bunch of mean girls and hangover people who are not Lucifers. They're immature. So they want to, in fact, punish rigidity, the bad group that they've decided the bad group, or they want to give green passes to the group they've decided needs green passes. No. We don't give green passes and we don't need to punish. We can stand in our ventral vagal stance like I did with to be saluted, and basically, so you don't have to do anything. You can be non-reactive, present the equation, and emotionally mature people. We know healthy self-worth doesn't mean we are liked, no. But we're not looking to be liked. We're looking to establish that which is, I know that I'm here, you're here, we both exist. So it's negotiable, but I'm not canceling Maria because you don't like how I think or feel. I won't cancel you, and if I chose not to become your friend at all, then that's where I've consistently communicated it to you. So you don't actually make somebody allow you to become friends because they've decided that they want to. This story, the 3 consistent years, I didn't do anything. This person knows I didn't want to be friends. We're strangers. And they didn't need to take out their awful mood that evening on me, but they decided to. And I handled it in a way that I'm proud of. And no, didn't need to get in their face, didn't need to be less serious, didn't need to use different words, but I definitely did reiterate in my bitch face. Because the men say that I'm too friendly, so I reiterated that I won't be saying hi, so I don't give you mixed messages. So I completely did the cold ice bitch, and I'm better with that. So yeah, it's no need to do any of simply repeat yourself, because children, by the time you've repeated yourself 3 times, if they have unhealthy self-worth, they will understand. I've done it more times than I can count. In one equation, I actually did it in writing. And by the 3rd time, I said, if you continue this way, I am disengaging from responding to you completely. This is the last moment of me writing you this, and that is all. And I was successful. So when you have firmness, kind firmness, no need to insult anyone. They will not be in any way, shape, or form impeding and imposing themselves. And so again, the people who don't like it, but there's no need for punishment. So when someone's been shamed, they're expecting, their first 3-year-old and their first 8 is expecting to play out the unfinished business, which is why the trauma therapists are what they will need, not us. But again, if instead they are welcoming all of who they are, and so we don't have a person who wants to continue feeling shame and defective, but instead their child parts are whole, securely attached, okay? And so when this story is for a compulsive thief, I thought of how compulsiveness is the dark sides of neuroplasticity, the destructive mind of inner and outer critic of a person who has shame, blame, fault, revenge. So they have attachment wounds, they're not self-led, they have a body like that, okay? So our future humans, the reason we're luminous warriors is because we have our prefrontal and our gut. Again, our body is completely healed, so we use our ventral vagal state and our heart is open. And when we're around emotionally immature people, we recalibrate to our own nervous system. And so they don't weigh us down or bring us down or any of that. We are the crocodile who is able to be wise, patient, and a silent powerhouse, even while they get to be in their instinctive and reactive, reptilian modulated sympathetic. So when people get in their angry little buttholes, and that's because, again, the performers are actually trying to make sure they can be right. Adaptive child part people, they call it a losing strategy. For me, it's just a person who doesn't know how to be in their ventral vagal state, curious. They don't know the power of community because they didn't have a safe haven, secure base one, and so they don't know how to just be their self. They need to wear the masks, and by wearing the masks, you know, it's a hard job, but once they're freed from it, that's the part of why as you become increasingly hard on a person, they become more and more capable of handling the punishment that you dish out. So when somebody is in the dark side of neuroplasticity already, and then you continue playing out that which is their unfinished business, 3D, 4D is going to continue hanging out with each other. They've decided that the shame and the frequency beneath neutrality is what they want. Like, they completely ignore getting their body in ventral vagal state, getting their prefrontal cortex. Obviously, it's not a dead end, but I continue to see them out there as they continue to tell you about Lucifer, entities, energy vampires. They continue to tell you that only with, like, to create groups that involve, how am I going to explain it? So the first 12 months of my ascension, which was way back when, I noticed my own patterns. By the second year, if I remember correctly, I noticed my quarterly patterns. By the third year, I was on a roll. I disengaged from having to watch a lot of different type of information on the Schumann resonance and this and that. And what I then noticed by the fourth and fifth years, that people who were not moving anywhere kept on repeating the same cycles and not expanding. And so you can manifest whatever the fuck you want, money, homes, but I'm going to say you're not manifesting your expanded body. But there's a lot of different soul age groups, so there's many different ways I can give you information for spiritual people, why people aren't ascending. For humanly speaking, Robert Sapolsky with his book Determined, first 3 years of their life count. Peter Levine, all the signs. It proves that people who were born with shame, blame, fault, revenge because of their unhealthy households, basically, they doubt people like me, they test people like me, they continue to misunderstand neutrality and positivity, they call it fake. They continue thinking that sadness, anger, and fear need to be experienced like some dramatic drama queens and kings because they have no capacity to expand their window welcome. No, because they don't go to a therapist, because they don't take seriously their brain, because they don't take seriously the neuroscience. I got plenty of people who tell me it's bullshit. I can be bullshit because I'm woo-woo and pseudoscience, even though I'm not bullshit, but I'll take it. Which is why that naysayer gave me the best constructive criticism. No, he gave me the best words to use. Yeah, I'm pseudoscience, all right, and it is self-help, but it's for self-agents, and it's not crap or bullshit, because some of us know how to handle and hang around each other, and to, you know, use this brain of ours, which is really fun, because we don't operate out of a straitjacket of logic. We use our left and our right together. So spirituality and sciences can touch, and they do. I bring human spiritual and spirituality elements, I call them together. It's subject matters. And when people find it hard to believe, or they say you're confusing shit, it's like, oh, there's another teenager in the room. So as the story with Sadhguru continues, it is only compassion that will melt him. And 1 second alone. It is comparable to when I learned in my course about how people heal when they experience somatic empathy. And so it's when they feel understood, they feel seen, they feel soothed. It's when they're able to have a conversation in the very free form, and you're not judging or casting a stone, but you're also not telling them how to think or how to feel. So it's really amazing when you have people who are coming together and knowing, again, that love is what we have. And that's with all of the spiritual different groups that I believe in how the Dalai Lama asked all the religious figures to come together, not only because of belief, but again, because all of the 8 billion and growing people, they are of one of two types. They are in their ventral vagal state and able to be self-aware, accountable, regulating, or they can become it. And the ones who don't want it, they are basically what I think of this rabbi who tells us about the masculine element. It's near infinite potential of life, but nothing comes of it until it is captured, contained, given limitation, and nurtured. The masculine element, when you get a masculine and that's the left alone, and you don't have its feminine element because you have both, so you're not in a embodied brain that, number one, again, neuroception speaks to you. So if you don't believe sensations, images, behaviors, affects, meanings, that you are body first, you don't believe in the data. Okay, so I can't do anything about that. But as Pat Ogden again presents, when we learn to read the body and track its language, that is the somatic narrative. And the verbal story is secondary to the somatic narrative. So what you first do is heal. So trauma therapy works because it reduces a trauma, it grows self-respect, it allows you to access positive emotions, because people until that moment will have not access to all their emotions. And no, you don't only regain access to positive, you will also experience the negative. And then you'll experience becoming neutral with the words, with emotions, because there's not positive or negative. But the people who doubt happiness and kindness and who continue to put that this is not real, that's why I did the episode that I did and a couple today. It's like, we are here. You keep on refusing that some can have happiness. So, okay, let me explain it to you. It's called ventral vagal state. It's called us being able to be mindfully aware. It's called mystics, spiritual, and just science people who know how to use a brain. It's called that I take self-awareness, accountability seriously. I don't bring you bad behavior. I know how to do emotions. And so again, I use different words to try and let you know, anyone who is choosing to live a life of meaning and connection beyond their solo self will be expanding automatically, because they want to bring their A game to each other and to future generations. Petty behavior, immunity is enough to be saluted. Unhealthy self-worth, boundaryless people, it doesn't matter which end of the coin they come in. They're not Lucifers or demons. They're people who can use Patrick Tan. Terry Real, self-righteousness is not something I look, oh my God, you're so scary. No, the minute you're self-righteous, the minute you're in your ego, the minute you are acting, there's never been a medium ever. I got a moron in front of me. I'm containing the word. I said it right now, but I don't say it in my brain. I just allow myself to notice, wow, it's amazing what you just spoke. I mean, really, I don't know what to tell you. Nothing. Like, what do you say to ignorance? Nothing. Because that's the point. Somebody speaking out ignorance, you allow yourself to be quiet. And then maybe they'll hear themselves, and that's the moment of truth. I'm not only quiet, I'm also not offended, because you just said the most quote-unquote moronic thing ever, but I'm not even thinking of you as a moron in the actual way of you being an idiot, because I can be an idiot, meaning stupid. I just realized that your cherishable belief, I mean, hey, flat earthers, for all I know it's true, because that's what humility means. So when you meet self-righteousness, it doesn't irritate you. You just think, okay, let's let it get out of the system of the 3-year-old. Obviously there's shit going on that they want to spill. Go ahead, dump it all out. It's not trauma. I don't care about the trauma. People who use those words, that's just not nice. So when somebody is on a roll, I will notice, and if I can interject so that I can have the conversation, I will, but I won't if I notice that that's what they really want to do. Because that's a moment of truth. You got a person who doesn't really care about the room. They just want to get it off their chest, and they think they know everything. So the more you're quiet, then they might notice, oh shit. But the real truth is, if they notice that that was egoic, self-righteous, exaggerated, when you don't take ownership of your child parts, you don't take ownership of the adoptive child. And therefore, you don't say, wow, I behaved like an immature human being. and you don't have to judge it. But, and here's Ron Siegel, telling ourselves that we should be nicer to ourselves doesn't seem to help. It's only once we can connect with the inner hurt that it gets better. And that is why the land of truth is neutrality, because sometimes somebody will have been so shitty, you can't say to yourself, oh, you did a great job. No, you did shitty. You did shitty, but if you stay in the image of shitty, you won't move into better. So how do you move out of shitty? You move out of shitty by remembering, one, we're all flawed and imperfect. Two, again, everybody makes mistakes. And the part about people wanting to still use Lucifer in stories, that's the exact reason why I'm pointing out there's no Lucifer, no energy vampires, no attachment, no dehumanization. Your superhero, supervillain stories that people have are for people who are living out the movie of their adoptive child. I kid you not. They continue to use unnecessarily words that have explanations. That's why the lady said, I'm a healer, how dare you trauma dump? You're not a healer. You're a person who got cocky, number one. Number two, you don't heal people. They heal themselves if they choose to take themselves seriously. Number three, there's no need for you to use the coined word trauma dump. You weaponized psych education because you read it online. 3 or 4, your charge is all over the place. That was completely unnecessary, is what a human being who's emotionally mature will say, independently from whatever it is you are. That was not your only option. But if you're not able to be a master of your own anger, well, of course, you're reactive, which is why our first emotion for our paid content, we have our 5-minute and 15-minute, and we're going to continue with anger, because people seem to allow themselves to get all in their little self-righteous pants, and it's like, okay, excuse me. But remember, I'm a self-agent, and I'm comfortable with my little angry pants because my mother, she's the one who gets my little angry butthole, and so does my twin, because that's why my trauma time comes out with them. But I keep it in the house, and I work on it, which they know about, and I've been working on it since I was 16. So imagine, I'm 45. I'm still working on it. I don't shame myself. I just say, okay, next time, what are we going to try to do? I don't know. Maybe pause some more. So I wanted to share something that I got to do before we go, and this is the word in Italian, scorre, which means flow. You remember that lovely association tabula rasa that I get to do things with in Italy when I'm here. So we had the opportunity to do a new type of activity, and they call it an aperi lab. So aperitif, and it's a lab because it's an event that does a laboratory. And I'm translating. You all know this if you're regulars. But long story short, we've done it with writing, right? Where I've erased words. We've done it with giving locations voices. You remember? So now we did it with plaster. And this is what came forth. But let me tell you the story of this one. So I only gave them the flat line, okay? And this was the original color. So I gave them the flat surface. It was a nice square. I tried to do my perfectionist thing. And then we passed our plates around. And so everybody got to do something, including the word that they then chose to write. Okay, so that was at the end. Somebody got this without the painting, and they said, okay, now give it a word and flow. And as you all know, I am going with the flow, mindfulness practitioner here with mindset, inner growth, what I do. But again, you can do it too, because it's just being yourself in a body that is in the ventral vagal state, and all your child parts are asleep, and you welcome yourself in your safe haven, secure base. So everyone can be here. Shame, by the way, gets dissolved when the person says, I'm flawed and imperfect, and they've been welcomed by someone like a me or a you, and they know all their child parts are imperfect, and it's okay. And then they allow themselves to look into the eyes of another, and or if you want to be able to really take in that unconditional love, and to then know I deserve it, because even though I can be considered crooked, whether you've done something or not, but you're taking proactive actions to not repeat it. This is the whole I repent for the sin and I don't repeat it again, which in one of my classes in college, I've told you that story. The professor said, we got a thief, we got a murderer. The murderer truly repents, the thief does not. Who goes to heaven? The murderer. Because truly repentant means I felt ashamed, I felt guilty, I heal it, I make amends for it. Doesn't mean I've been forgiven for it, but I will allow myself to make up for it. And I will forgive my imperfections Even though, again, you might not use the word, you might just say, I want to be out of the shame to make up. So everybody has their own way of talking about this stuff. But the part is that here you feel freed from it. And usually freeing yourself from something like that and feeling not deserving will be with a cry, because sadness, it's not the sadness, it's tears release the trauma charges. And reality, as Patrick Tian points out, childhood trauma survivors, they will have, first of all, the fetal position, then they will go through grief, then they will continue, and then they will go through rage and resentment, and then they will, if they ever want to, forgive. So here we are, earned secret attachment or secret attachment with self-led. I have no idea of that journey, but I know why, whenever and if they ever want. So in the meantime, I'm describing something because the point is that you are meant to feel freely open-hearted if you are a ventral vagal state capacity, okay? With the whole self, the way I'm trying to let you all in on, future human, we all have vulnerability. We're not afraid of it. And we're okay with crying. And so you would be very freed up from a cry like that because you'd be welcoming that capacity to be a somatic empath and welcome the fragmented piece of yourself, okay? So, and with another. So that's why a safe haven, secure base, healthy self-worth relationships are important, because trauma is relational. So you start with a therapist and you become the person that you can be, and then you continue with healthy self-worth relationships. And that's the beauty of creating our genuine bonds, okay? So the fragment, once it's shared, I did a shameful thing, I feel guilty, I'm going to not repeat it ever again. I don't have to forgive in the way of using that word per se, but I do want to process the charge. Okay, so that there, if you don't want to use the word forgive, Dr. Daniel Siegel gave me the great explanation. The past doesn't return, you're processing the charge to integrate the brain and integrate that moment and that fragment. It's a human conversation. That's why the spiritual bypassers who are all in their little self-righteous, there's no demons, Lucifer. Stop calling people who are emotionally immature and unfortunate. There's leaders that they follow. Just going to leave it alone. So, the stories of yesterday's news were there because we didn't have neuroscience and mental health and all this good information. So, feeling felt, feeling seen, and you welcome yourself with the eyes and a hug and a release that can happen. Obviously, again, everybody does it their way. So at this event, this has nothing to do with the event, this lab that I did, I got to pass around my flat piece of clay and they came with this and the word that resonates with me. And there's a whole bunch of synchronicities, as any of you who are mystics and spiritual will know. And so we are always amazed because at the events, I'm consistently also meeting up with people that have been before there, right? And so I thought of the one thing that we have heard, whether you want to call it dark matter, dark energy with science, right? And how our ecosystem and our biology and everything points to bringing us to balance. So from chaos and or rigidity, the opportunity is balance. You don't actually create anything beautiful if you remain rigid and or chaotic. And so the body knows flow, and those who resist flow, they're not resisting it, is that they didn't have the first years of life in flow, which is why the somatic therapists say they're all healing, leave it alone, they'll all find their best sweet spot. And then some of us are like, but they're not. And some of us will be reminded of not everybody will be in the expanded version of themselves. And there's a lot of ways I could answer that without needing to go there right now, because it's all about, if we want science, it will be Robert Sapolsky with determined. If we want spirituality, Akash source, it will be that they got free will choice. And so they're presented with people that they can meet and they can choose if they want to be kind and love and to move into the expanded version of themselves, or if they want to maintain the adaptive child, rigid, chaotic, and defensive mode. Okay, so in this exercise, we all did a very great thing together, and it was like God giving us the earth and having us build something. That's where I got emotional about it. And then I thought about a lot of other things, and one of them was how beautiful it would be if we could easily do it the way that this group did it. And then I thought, but as long as we have adaptive child part half-brained people, the straitjacket of logic people, like people who interrupt me and say, excuse me, you're confusing science spirituality, as long as we have all these masculines, which means a left brain alone, and they are picky with words in a way that is obnoxiously idiotic. A theologian who went out of their way to build a research paper to say that Reiki is bad energy. And I know what the methodology is because I went to academia. But that isn't to debunk academia. No, it's to say, excuse me, philosopher and or religious group people, do you really want to keep putting equations that are from yesterday's news versus understanding that you are taking ownership of that which is a sphere of energy? I mean, you really don't know how to bring in the melting pot? Is that it? So we might have always those who don't want the melting pot. We're seeing it right now between countries. We're seeing it within every country where at this point in our global history, 2025, I mean, we travel with planes. Who's grounded in reality? The ones of us who are like, okay, what year do you all live in? Do you not notice how? So I'm going to leave it alone because I can clearly see the ones who are having a hard time because their identity is so rigid and they feel like they're going to lose it, which is where cognitive dissonance and structural dissociation come in, and a half a brain, which is lack of intelligence. Mediocrity doesn't win. It can be seen by those of us who are not mediocre. Then those of us who are not mediocre and grounded in reality also know how societal culture is built and how things move. And that is why we know how our human species evolves when you learn from smart people like Patrick McNamara and they prove it. And it's like, wow, you want to call yourself a leader or what? And you don't understand decentralizing in the self. Are you a moron? Or did you just plug your ears and didn't bother to try and figure out? No, you just decided that you're not going to take science seriously and you're going to take it as a competitive subject matter. So that's when you know a non-bilaterally integrated brain person. That's the word and the explanation. They don't have to believe that it's true because, again, that is where it is not our business. And I just have a lot of different opinions on those who don't know how to learn things personally. And now that I understand why cognitive dissonance, structural dissociation, when I say cut off from Purucha Prakriti, it's because I learned it in one of my courses and I understand it. Cut off from pure consciousness, pure energy, and it's a person with an amygdala, the enamored with themselves, the one focus, the monkey brain, the dull brain, the butterfly brain. Yeah, between the first three don't even matter, but the one focused and the enamored with themselves, they give us golden nuggets. So thanks to every person, by the way, we continue to evolve. It's why none of us are unnecessary. And it's also why you don't endorse shameful behavior. I don't endorse mediocrity or pseudo-intellectuals. I will say, wow, but I can understand that they're blinded to their ignorance, and that's because they got half a brain working, they got trauma they didn't take ownership of, and they're going to be self-righteous. And the minute that they see someone like me, they're going to say, you're a feeling one. Look, the stupid one. Sure, yeah. You keep on talking about wanting to see what's right. I already know what would be right. Apparently, nobody else has. No, some of us have it figured out. We just are trying to figure out how to get together. Because air, water, food, morons, like seriously, it's not utopia. So when somebody is bringing to me a bunch of other chit-chat, I understand it. Because I'm a political science major and I have, again, a master's degree in international relations and diplomacy. Doesn't change what I said before. Our species evolves, and I'm also an online entrepreneur and marketer, and although I'm a solopreneur, I know how the market works too. So it's hilarious. No, it's not actually. When I see things happening, I see the little pieces of where free will and the potential to make a different choice could have given a little slant over here. And I am actually also pretty certain that that's exactly why I got taught, again, how not to play know-it-all. Because empowered feminines, we will see right through a bunch of shit. It's not in a way of it being something that makes us angry because we're not God. We don't correct things. We don't have to. Empowered feminines have a connection. There's no question about what's going on. But as a human who is letting you know, I've seen things and I'm like, ooh, that could have been like, it's like seeing something that could have been moved over here. And then it would have been all good for this group of people. Now it's moved over there. But then it's okay. Are you aware that countries have different soul age groups too. I found that out. And so, yeah, we all close out the karma stuff. So I understand that as well. And the planet is moving towards Dharma. It already is in that frequency. But again, I'm not going to continue. Otherwise, I could keep you for hours and hours. Meantime, thanks for stopping by. And I do love that our lovely future humans are here sharing love. Everyone is an angel. Everyone can achieve that lovely integrated brain, ventral vagal state. Their sense of self can be whole, and with our support, they can get here. And that's mystic, spiritual, and mindful living, loving people. Those who don't want to believe in us being able to expand to our infinity and beyond, it is what it is. It's not the first time that I'm sure you've heard people not believe in humanity. So we, on the other hand, believe in humanity. Otherwise, why would you be at inspiring human potential? As my voice goes away. Thanks again for stopping by. Have a good one.